Hi everyone. So what makes the Fuji X-H1 a magical camera? Well, first of all, I think it has the IBIS feature. That allows you to take video handheld, which is awesome. It's looking like, you can use face detection to focus the subject. That's pretty magical in itself. But I think people are missing out that taking pictures at night using a very long shutter speed allows you to use a much smaller ISO, which will give you less noise in your JPEGs. Let's look at this. So one thing that I want to do with my X-H1 is to take pictures at night. And the Fuji 16mm f1.4 is super useful for that. So here I took this picture at this motel sign. We have it at 1/125th of a second, f1.4, ISO 1600. And if you look closely a little bit, this could be some motion blur right here. It's possible. Or the letters are just a little bit blown out. Either way, it's an okay picture this is usually a Fuji picture by all accounts. The next picture is pretty amazing. And if you've ever taken a picture at 1/15th of a second and have this type of results, you're pretty good. You're pretty good at holding your breath and probably having, 3 or 4 points of contact. Here I had my hands and 2 points of contact in my eye. I don't think I hold my breath on this, but it's 1/15th of a second, f1.4, ISO 1600, and you can see that there's stars over here, which is pretty incredible. Looking at this a little more closer, though, it looks like there was some motion blur. It's possible. But if you see it this way, it doesn't look too bad, actually. But here's the next one. 1/15th of a second at f2.0. So less light is coming in, and you can see that the camera nailed it. Yes, this is a little bit overexposed. I'm pretty sure some people will say that. But there's a big difference between that and this. And there's a lot more character to it. Yes, you can take the RAW and manipulate it all you want. You can bring out a lot of details and such. But we're talking about, this is a cooked file, JPEG, which is pretty incredible. And this one is even more pretty, and there's more color to it. Could be the lights that are shining against the wall over here. I don't know, but there's this has a, orange glow to it, and here it's a little more blue, and that's probably the lights. So there's more character to it. This is 1/15th of a second, f2.0 at 1600 ISO. And if you look closely, it's not too bad. Maybe there is some shaking, the motion blur. It's possible. I'm pretty sure there is. But at this point, right here, doesn't look like there is. Here's another one. Same thing. Took it one more time. I was probably looking at chimping a little bit. And this one, it looks like it nailed it. So at 1/15th of a second, that's pretty hard to nail without any stabilization. Sure, you can probably use your tripod, but here, I have no tripod. This is another picture where the ISO is now half. Now we're at 800 ISO. And it nailed it. It did very good. Not only that, because the ISO is lower, there's less noise in JPEG. Some people will say that, these cameras are ISO invariant or ISO less. I'm not sure if the X-H1 is. I'm pretty sure it is. And you can take the raw at, something like 1600, and then you can manipulate it, and some details will come out as if you took it at, or take it at 400, I should say. Take the picture at 400 ISO and then pump it up to 1600. Yes, you could probably do something like that. But in this case, we're talking about JPEGs. There's no way you can bring out, details in the shadows. But again, one of the beautiful things about Fuji cameras, which I haven't heard lately, about how beautiful the JPEGs are. I think maybe that's been overused, but we have to go back to what makes Fuji cameras so what makes them so powerful. What is it that is so special about them? Well, the JPEGs that come out of it are pretty amazing. You talk about, color science. I mean, these people created film. We talk always about Canon having great color science and great color scan, and they do have great color scan science. But Fuji has an overall package of overall color. Some people don't like the colors too much, and maybe a little too saturated, too dark. Who knows? But I like the colors. They're really nice. So here is 1/15 of a second. There might be some motion blur here, just a little bit. F1.8. This is 400 ISO. So from 1600 ISO to 800 ISO to 400 ISO. And you can see the f-stop is now coming down a little bit. We have to open it up a little bit to bring in more light to compensate from the sensitivity of the ISO. The ISO was high with a lot of sensitivity. Now the ISO is lower, so less sensitive. And at 400, it doesn't look too bad. It might be overexposed probably a little bit. Definitely. Well, I don't know about this sign. I don't think that there was anything on the sign. I don't see anything there. And then you can see that. Look at this detail right here on the mirror. That's a nice picture. That's a real nice picture. Okay. Here's another one. This one's at 1.4, f1.4. Did it nail it? There might be a little motion blur here, a little bit. But then again, it might be just that it's a bit more brighter. It's possible. Viewing it this way, it's not too bad. Took some pictures inside the car. I think if you really look, there's a little bit of motion blur. You can see that. It's a bit. It looks like it's nailed the picture right here. But here it might be. Look at that. It looks pretty good right here as well. Okay, it might be my eyes or something. But look at this. This is incredible. At 1/15 of a second, you're looking at some interior items here. It looks pretty sharp to me. Oops. And the street lights outside. It's a really nice pictures. The blacks. I can't believe that the blacks are, it doesn't have that, like, oh, it can't determine what type of black it is. I mean, black is black. Shades of black, I should say. Going back to this is mind-blowing. This is 1/7 of a second at f1.4 at 400 ISO. And this is pretty incredible. Look at that. This is blown out, definitely. But what I was trying to do, I was trying to see if I can get some motion blur on the cars. And this is a bit blown out. That's true. But still, at 1/7 of a second with no tripod, pretty incredible. This is 1/8 of a second. And this is f1.8 instead of 1.4. So, pushed up the aperture a little bit. And look at that. That's nice. Those colors are nice. I don't see any motion blur here. That looks pretty nice. And we're getting closer to the picture that I'm really liking. This is 1/8 of a second, f1.8, ISO 400. Isn't that incredible? And it looks pretty steady right here. Maybe a tinge bit of motion blur, maybe a little bit, but not bad. And this is the picture that I really like. There's a, so you have this car with the streak of light. You have this car with blue headlights that's making this area right here blue. You got this, sodium lamp that gives you that orange, yellow color. The sign looks pretty, it looks pretty good. It's nailed. You got the tires over here with some details. This is incredible at 1/8 of a second. So this is the RAW. And I'm just going to mess around with the RAW a little bit. Let's see what we can do. The RAW looks awesome, actually. But let's see. Let's increase the exposure a little bit. Maybe the contrast. Get some of that back. Let's lower down the highlights so that we can see the car headlights. The shadows, we can make them a little more, pump them up a little bit. The whites, we can lower down the whites or increase the whites. That's going to be up to you. I will probably lower them a little bit. Decrease the blacks a little bit. Maybe increase the whites. We'll see. Now the whites can go down. Clarity, pump up clarity a little bit. Those blues come out a little bit. Vibrance. Wow, look at that. Not too much. A little bit of saturation. And you have this curve. I always like to mess the curve around. I like to do just see what I can get. Wow, look at that. Look at that rich, deep blue on the sign and the streak of light. Wow, look at that. That is pretty neat, actually. And then you can mess around with this more. You can even have it so that you can do the profile that I was in. It was Velvia. Wow, look at that. It even makes it more like if it was some sci-fi. Lower that down. Wow, look at that. And let's look at the JPEG version, right? That's a JPEG version. Very muted, but still respectable. And this is what is what I'm remembering the scene. And that's the beauty of RAW, right? You can manipulate it to be exaggerated, but this is kind of like what I see, the cars passing by with their lights, the headlights being bright and blue, and the signs, the neon signs are, exaggerated a little bit. And you can see a few stars as well. The sodium light, you're in the car. That's pretty incredible. This you could do with an X-T2 with a tripod. Absolutely. You can probably do it with the X100F as well. No doubt. But the thing is, this picture you probably can't handheld, but with the X-H1 you can. And this one is more, again, this is what is so beautiful about photography, is that, your pre-visualization or your visualization of what the scene it was. And this is how I remember the scene. This is how the camera remembers the scene, which is kind of close to what I remember it, but this is more. I mean, the more exaggerated bright lights, the streak of light, the motel sign, and so forth. Okay, so I hope you've got some idea of what makes this camera magical, where you can lower down the shutter speed. That means you can lower down the ISO. You can take some fantastic shots like this one with no tripod. And, less equipment you have, the better it is that you can start setting up things, and the more satisfaction you'll have working with this camera.